Here we are covering percents in section 1.3, continuing with our unit 1. So the word percent comes from the Latin phrase percentum, meaning by the hundred or for every 100. A number written as a percent is being compared with a second number called the standard or the base. So a percent is a fraction that has a denominator of 100. So for example, when you say 67% or write 67%, you are just expressing the fraction in another way. And this fraction is actually 67 over 100. So for example, we have Russell Camp owns 100 acres of land in Montana. 49 of the acres are covered with trees. The rest of the land is open fields. We say that 49% of his land is covered with trees. It is important to see that 49% means 49 parts out of 100 parts. And it can be written as a fraction of 49 over 100, or as a decimal, 0.49. Understanding the meaning of the notation allows you to change from one form to another. So for example, we have that 49% equals 49 out of 100 parts, which equals, and I'm going to do a little insert here, 49 over 100, which equals 0.49. So all of those can go back and forth. We can express a decimal as a percent by multiplying by 100 or moving the decimal 2 places to the right. So let's take a look at some examples and write them as these decimals as a percent. So remember, this is written over 100, so 20.23 means 23 100ths. So 23 over 100, or 23%. Okay, so how do we get there? If you have your calculator and you do 0.23 and you multiply by 100, you're going to get just 23, and you'll need to add your percent sign. The other thing to do is to move your decimal point 2 places to the right. So if you grab that decimal point and move it over and put it at the end, you then get your 23%. Okay, let's do the same thing for number 2. So I'm going to just move my decimal point 2 places to the right, and that gives me 46.1%. Remember to put your percent signs because this is representing percentage. In number 3, we have 0.0736, so move your decimal point 2 places and you get 7.36%. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to write your answers for number 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so you can check your answers there and see how you guys did with your conversion from decimal to percent. So to convert a fraction to a percent, you divide the fraction to get a decimal and then convert it to the decimal. So here I have some examples. Number 1 is 1/4. So 1/4, you can divide it. So in your calculator, you can do 1 divided by 4, and you should get 0.25, and then move your decimal point 2 places to the right, and that gives you your 25%. In number 2, I have 5/8. Again, do the division. That gives me 0.625. Move 2 places to the right, 62.5%. In number 3, we have 3/4. I'm going to give you guys just a minute to try that one, and then I'll put your answer on. So for your decimal, you should have gotten 0.75 or 75%. So some fractions cannot be converted to an exact decimal. So for example, if you look at the fraction of 1/3, that decimal is 0.33333 repeating. So we would have to round to get an approximate percent, and the fraction is roughly equal to 33.3% and exactly equal to 33 1/3%. So we can also express a percent as a decimal by dividing by 100 or moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So let's go over some examples. If I have 7% and I want it written as a decimal, so I've got my 7%. And remember, there's like a decimal here at the end, and since we're going to be moving 2 places to the left or dividing by 100, then you should get 0.07. 3.2%, move it 2 places to the left, 0.032. Go ahead and take a minute and try number 3, 4, and 5, and then I will add your answers. You can check your answers there, and if you have any questions, please let me know in Microsoft Teams chat. We can also express a percent as a fraction by writing the number as a fraction over 100 and then simplifying into lowest terms. So if I have 15%, all you need to do is do 15 over 100, and then you can simplify this in your calculator using that ABC key. So you'll just do 15 ABC 100 and enter, and that gives you 3 over 20. For number 2, we've 140%, so 140 over 100. Again, use that ABC key instead of the division symbol. And if you do that in your calculator, you get something that looks like 1 2/5, and that U is the split of your whole and your fraction. But we are not going to write a fraction like this when we are talking about percentages, so you need to change this to an improper fraction, and you can do that by hitting second ABC, enter, and it will switch it to 7/5 for you. The other way to do it is just to do it by hand. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 2 is 7. That becomes your numerator, and the denominator stays the same, 7/5. Okay, taking a look at number 3, we have 3.9%, and we want to write it as a fraction. So if you look at it, that would be 3.9 over 100. But if you try to put this in your calculator is not going to like this mixture of a decimal and a fraction. So you could do the division, the actual division in your calculator. So if you do that, you're just going to do 3.9 divided by 100, and you get a decimal answer of 0.039, which is 39 thousandths. So that means, because this 9 is in the thousandths place, this fraction is 39 over 1,000. And then, of course, you can put that in your calculator and see if you can simplify using the ABC key. And when you do, you can't, because 39 is a prime number. This table below is from your textbook, and it just gives you some quick conversions between percent, decimal, and fraction. There is some homework in my math lab, so don't forget to do your 1.3 homework, and then there's some extra practice pages 39 to 40, and here is that listed for you guys at the bottom. So now that we have looked at some beginning percent stuff, we're going to start looking at percent problems. So these are going to be some application problems applying what you have been learning. So in 1.4, we have in North Carolina, each sales transaction for most merchandise is taxed, and in Wake County, the total sales tax rate is 6.75%. At one transaction, you spend $144, and the sales tax you pay is $9.72. So this scenario is expressed in the following proportion. So if you, I'm going to grab this and come down here. So if you think about it, it would be 9.72 over 144 equals 6.75 over 100. So what you're looking at here is a sales tax proportion. So generally, this would be your tax paid over your subtotal equals your tax rate over 100. Okay, so tax paid over subtotal equals tax rate over 100. So all percent problems involve three quantities. B is the base or the whole, also known as the total amount. It's standard used for comparison. P is the percentage or the part that is being compared with the base, and R is the rate or percent. So it's going to be a percent number. So I'm going to write this out for you. You could have R over 100 equals P over B, or I like to use percent over 100 equals part over whole. You may have also seen this written as percent over 100 equals is over of. All of these mean the same thing. So your textbooks use this RPB. You may hear me call it part, whole, or is and of. All of those are interchangeable there. So let's look back at the sales tax example. We have 972 is 6.75% of $144. So again, if we wrote this, it would be 6.75 over 100, because it's percent over 100, equals 972, so 9.72 over 144. The 972 is part of the 144. So let's consider these next three questions. What is 30% of 50? So number one, what is 30% of 50? So I'm going to do percent over 100 equals part over whole. Or if you think about it this way, what is? So we do not know what our is. Of 50. So you can use percent over 100 equals is over of as well. So x over 50. And then we are able to figure out what that missing part is. Another way to look at it is find 30% of 50. These two questions right here mean the same thing. They're just worded a little bit different. Another way to write this would be 30% of 50 is what number? All three of these questions mean the same thing. They're just written different ways. So they're all asking you for that P or the part, finding that missing part. So let's do a couple of examples. Find 2% of 140 pounds. So we're going to find 2%. Remember, it's going to be percent over 100 equals part over whole. Our whole is this of 140. So that's going to be the denominator, and we do not know what our part is. So now to solve, we set a proportion, so we can just cross multiply to solve. So you're going to do 100 times x is 100x, and 2 times 140 is 280. And then divide by 100. And you should get 2.8. Okay, taking a look at number 2. 35% of $20 is equal to what amount? So again, percent over 100 equals part over whole. Our whole is this after the of, so of 20, and there's our percent. So 35 over 100 equals x over 20. Cross multiply to solve. So 100 times x is 100x. Then we have 35 times 20 gives us 700. Divide by 100 and you get 7. So $7. I'm going to give you a minute to try number 3 and 4. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just give you the answers to number 3 and 4, so check your work. In number 3, you should have gotten that x equals $10. And in number 4, your x equals 10.56. So let's take a look at one that's a little bit more detailed. So take a look here at number 5. We have a carpenter that needs to account for waste. He needs to order 120% of the total wood used in making a cabinet. So if 15 feet of white oak is actually used, how much does he need to order? So this is asking us, really, what is 120% of 15 feet? And it will make it easier if you think about problems that way. So we're going to do 120 over 100 equals x over 15. Now we can solve, so 100 times x is 100x. 120 times 15 gives me 1800. Divide by 100, x equals 18 feet. Notice that I am using my units, so get in the habit of doing that. Now let's take a look at 3 more questions. So we have 5 is what percent of 8? Find what percent of 5 is of 8. What percent of 8 is 5? These 3 questions are all forms of the same problem. They are all asking you to find the R or the rate. So we are going to find the rate for some problems. So here we're going to be looking at some problems where we're solving the rate. We have what percent of 40 pounds is 16 pounds? So what percent, we are looking for our percentage. So I'm going to call that my P. So P over 100 equals of is my whole, is my part. So 16 over 40. And now we have our proportion so we can solve. So P times 40 is 40P. And 100 times 16 gives me 1600. Divide by 40, so P is 40. So 40%. 65 is what percent of 25? So again, we're looking for our percentage. 65 is, that's our top, or our numerator, of 25 is our denominator. We're going to cross multiply to solve, so I have 25p is equal to 100 times 65 gives you that 6,500. Divide that by 25 and you get 260. So 260%. This answer should make sense since 65 is greater than 25. We should know that that's more than 100%. Find what percent 990 is of $18. So percent over 100 equals, so 990 is our part, 18 is our whole. So 990 over 18. And we're going to solve this. So I have 18p equals, and you're going to do 100 times 990. And you should get 990. Okay, divide that by 18. And p equals 55%. Here at this next one, at number 4, we're going to be looking at an application problem. So both number 4 and 5 is a little bit more detailed application problems. During reshaping, 6 pounds of metal is removed from a casting originally weighing 80 pounds. What percent of the metal is removed? So we're going to do our percent over 100 equals, we know that 6% is removed. The original, or the whole, is 80 pounds, so 6 over 80. So now just solve. 80p equals 600. And then do your division. So 600 divided by 80 gives you 7.5%. So p equals 7.5%. Okay, I'm going to give you guys just a minute to try number 5. Okay, so setting this up a lot like we've done our other problems. So I have 12 milliliters of pure acetic acid being mixed with 38 milliliters of water. We're figuring out the percent concentration of the resulting solution. So we are looking for P still, and we know that 12 milliliters is mixed with a whole of 38 milliliters of water. You can cross multiply to solve here, so 38p equals 1200. Divide by 38, and you should get 31%. 31.58%, and this is with me rounding. So I got 31.5789, and if I'm rounding 2 decimal places because the 8 is greater than 5, my 7 needs to round up. Now let's take a look at some more questions. So we have that 8.7 is 30% of what number? 30% of what number is 8.7, and find the number such that 30% of it is 8.7. So these 3 questions are also all types of the same problem. They are all asking you to find the base, or B. So we're going to take a look at that in the next 3 problems. Okay, so I'm going to add a page in here, and we're going to do the examples on the next page. Okay, so number 1, we have 16% of what amount is equal to 5.76, so $5.76. So 16%, 16 over 100 equals, so of what amount? That's our unknown, so we know our base is unknown, and $5.76 is our numerator. And now we can start to solve. So 16x equals, and you're going to do 5.76 times 100, and you should get 576, and then divide that by 16, and you get 36. So our whole is $36. Number 2, $2 is 8% of what cost? We are finding that cost. So 8%, so 8 over 100 equals $2 is our numerator. We don't know the denominator because we're looking for that whole amount, that of. So 8x equals 200. And then you're going to do your 200 divided by 8, and you should get $25. Number 3, we have the $2,800 actually spent on a construction job was 125% of the original estimate. So what is the original estimate here? So we know that the percentage is 125%, so 125 over 100. They actually spent $2,800, and we don't know what the original estimate was, so we're going to figure that out. So 125x equals, do your 100 times 2,800. You get 280,000. And then divide that by 125. So x equals $2,240. Here at number 4, we have a builder told his crew that the site preparation and foundation work on a house would represent about 5% of the total building time. If it took them 21 days to do the preliminary work, how long would the entire construction take? So we're looking for how long the entire building time is going to take. So we're going to do 5 over 100 equals, the preliminary work took 21 days, so 21 over x. And then we're going to solve. So 5x equals 2,100. And then do your division. And you should get x equals 420 days. Now on your note page, as you're following along, you should see some problems that say solve the following percent problems. This is going to be a mixture of the type of problems that we just covered. So on the next slide, I will have those 5 problem answers, And if you have any questions on those, please feel free to send a message in the team channel. That way, if there's anyone else that has a question, they can also ask. And then here is some homework for my Math Lab 1.4. And then you have your Chapter 1 quiz. This quiz is due on Wednesday, September the 2nd. Okay, it's a quiz. Oops, sorry. To September the 2nd. And then there's some extra practice here for you from your workbook. If you have any questions as you are doing these problems, please feel free to ask in our Microsoft Teams channel. That way others may see answers as well to what I say to you guys.